Hello everyone, it's Wednesday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. Starting tomorrow, South Koreans are going to enjoy an extended 6-day holiday. This comes after the government designated October 2nd as a temporary holiday, which falls between the 3-day Chuseok holiday followed by National Foundation Day on Tuesday. Some might go on a trip and some might just go to theaters with family members. For those who are interested in doing the latter, 3 domestic films hit local theaters today ahead of the extended holiday: Cobweb, Road to Boston, and Dr. Cheon and Lost Talisman. Which is going to attract the most moviegoers, and what interesting storyline will each film deliver? For more on this, we welcome Professor Areum Jeong from Arizona State University. Professor Jeong, welcome.
Hi, Bo-kyung. So nice to see you again.
Hi, Areum. Thank you for joining us. Now, Professor, 3 domestic films have been released today to compete over Chuseok, Korea's autumn Thanksgiving holiday. One of them is Dr. Cheon and Lost Talisman, starring well-known South Korean actor Kang Dong-won. It reportedly fuses many different genres very well. What are your expectations for this film?
Yeah, Dr. Cheon and the Lost Talisman is a mystery thriller that fuses action, fantasy, horror, and mystery. And it's an adaptation of a very popular webtoon called Bingi, which was written by Fresh and illustrated by Kim Hong-tae. And as you mentioned, Kang Dong-won plays the role of this fake exorcist who can't see ghosts, but he solved the cases due to his very sharp insight. And one day he is approached by this young girl who can actually see ghosts, and she commissions him for a case that he can't refuse. So already the premise is very entertaining, and I think a lot of people will be interested in going to see this. And of course, Kang Dong-won is very attractive, and we can also expect brilliant performances by other actors such as Lee Som and Ho Jun-ho. And I also heard that the director, Kim Sung-sik, used to be Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook's assistant director. So we might be able to see some cameo appearances from Bong and Park's regular actors.
All right, it sounds exciting. I'm sure many Kang Dong-won's fans, including me, will be very excited to watch the movie. Now, Professor, let's take a look at other films as well. Road to Boston is a film based on historical facts, which depicts 2 iconic Korean marathoners, Seo Yun-bok and his coach Son Gi-jung, at the 1947 Boston Marathon. Could you tell us more about this?
Sure. Yeah, Road to Boston is a sports film, and Seo Yun-bok is played by Im Si-won. He was a marathon runner who won the race with the help of his coach, Son Gi-jung, who was the winner of the 1930s Berlin Marathon, and he is played by Ha Jung-ho. And while Seo Yun-bok is kind of relatively lesser known to Koreans, Son Gi-jung is very famous. He's a very widely known figure among Koreans because he was the first Korean to win a medal at the Olympics Games. And during that time, Korea was under Japanese occupation, so Son Gi-jung had to compete under a Japanese name. And he also refused to acknowledge the Japanese anthem when it was playing during the awards ceremonies, and later told reporters that he was ashamed to compete. He was to run for Japan. So he's not only seen as a gold medalist, but also as a very patriotic figure. And so I think a lot of people, especially families, will be interested in watching this film. It represents 2 very well-known Korean figures. And also there's this common trope of nationalism and resistance during the Japanese colonial rule.
All right, I see. Hope those interested in Korean history could get a chance to look at the movie. And I'm pretty sure this is quite meaningful that is released during the Asian Games in Hangzhou. Now, Professor, last but not least, directed by Kim Ji-woon and starring actor Song Kang-ho, Cobweb released as well. And it was already recognized by Cannes, having been invited to the non-competitive section. What is the story about, and what aspect of it do you believe was recognized by the Global Film Festival?
Cobweb is a black comedy. It's set during the 1970s in Korea, which was the dictatorship period. And it's about a filmmaker played by Song Kang-ho who is obsessed with reshooting the ending of his film Cobweb. So the structure is kind of like a film within a film, and that's already very attractive. And this filmmaker has only 2 days to reshoot it, but it's not easy because there's censorship. And also his actors and staff can't understand why he has to shoot it. And so we can expect that this film will show a very chaotic and desperate moment on the movie set in a very comic way. And director Kim Ji-yoon is a renowned South Korean director and screenwriter. He has successfully tackled a wide range of genres. And you might remember that his first film, The Quiet Family, was also a black comedy, and his second film, The Foul Comedy. So we could expect that Cobweb will represent what director Kim does best, skillfully matching up a variety of genres with a unique twist.
All right, I heard this movie is already attracting many moviegoers. I can't wait to see. Now, Professor, we cannot leave out Asia's largest film festival, can we? There's only a week to go until the Busan International Film Festival to kick off. What films do you recommend taking a look at?
Oh, there's so many films we have to look at this year. The opening film, which is called Because I Hate Korea, is actually an adaptation of Jang Kang-myung's best-selling novel. It's about a young woman in her 20s, and she's played by Go Ah-sung in this film. And this young woman is not happy. She feels that her life is meaningless as she competes for jobs and resources in society. And she decides to immigrate to New Zealand, and it shows how she finds herself throughout this journey. And I think it will resonate with many, many audience members who also grapple with this question of how should we live? How do we live another day? And there are 3 new Korean films premiering in the Korean Cinema Today section. The first one is Believer 2, which is a sequel to the first film, which came out in 2018. It's a crime action movie starring Cho Jin-woong and Cha Seung-won. There's also another film called Ballerina. It's a mystery thriller starring actress Chun Jong-seo. And also Hopeless, starring Song Joong-ki, was also invited to the Cannes Film Festival earlier this year. So there's already 3 new feature films in that section. In the wide angle section, there is a documentary called Dear Jinmi, and it's about the late Sully of the girl group FX. And I think many fans who continue to remember and cherish Sully will be very interested in watching this documentary. In the on-screen section, there are 5 new Korean originals that will first premiere at the festival and then later be aired on streaming platforms such as Netflix or TV. The first one, The Deal, is a crime series about 3 students who come up with this kidnapping scheme. The second film, I Am a Running Mate, is a political drama among high school students. And it is also Han Jin-won's directorial debut. You might remember him because he is also the co-writer of the film Parasite.
All right.
Third, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, Professor, I hope I could be there at that time around in Busan City. Now, Professor, though many films were released this year, experts say South Korea's film industry is struggling and is far from seeing recovery. What significant shifts in the cultural landscape as well as challenges is the Korean industry experiencing?
Well, I mean, while streaming platforms are really great in making Korean originals accessible to viewers all over the world, it also creates a challenge for the film industry, especially movie theaters, because it's becoming harder and harder to attract people to actually go to the theater. And especially since film ticket prices increased after the pandemic, I see more and more people just, waiting until the films pop up on streaming platforms. So that's one challenge. And on top of that, we're also seeing budget cuts in the near future as the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism recently announced that next year they will cut the Korean Film Council's 1.2 billion won funds, which are used for supporting local film productions. And these funds are used to create film screenings for the local audiences. They educate up-and-coming filmmakers in local areas. So they're actually very important, and these issues should not be overlooked.
All right, I see. And that being said, Professor, what should be done to ensure the Korean cinema industry bounces back?
Well, it seems that there needs to be a need to diversify more content, and also there has to be collective effort, not just by the creators and the industry, but also the government to support not just those big film commercial productions, but also local productions as well.
All right, I see. That's all the questions I have for today, Professor Jeong. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's now turn our attention to K-pop. Recently, all the members of BTS renewed their contracts with big hit music, while certain members of BLACKPINK are reportedly going to exit from their current agency. What is the latest news from the K-pop scene, and what can we expect in October? For this, we have invited Bernie Jo, president of DFSB Collective. Bernie, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Thank you for being with us. Now, Bernie, first question. So all 7 members of K-pop sensation BTS have recently renewed contracts with their agency for the second time. And experts say this has eliminated HYBE's biggest uncertainty regarding BTS becoming a group again in 2025. What's your view on this?
It was somewhat surprising, and not so much that they re-signed, but the fact that they all re-signed together roughly at the same time. So that was really a very pleasant surprise. I think in many ways HYBE really needed some good news because, it was just only a few weeks ago when HYBE America lost many of their marquee artists, Idina Menzel, Demi Lovato, J Balvin, and then Ariana Grande. Now, granted, HYBE America still has Justin Bieber, David Guetta, and Black Eyed Peas on the books, but that definitely shook a lot of people up in the industry in terms of, that kind of turnover. Now, that being said, obviously, HYBE in Korea has had a runaway success with numerous bands from many of their sub-labels. But, the fact of the matter is that I think HYBE in many ways really provided the playbook on how to treat artists like partners rather than pawns, because for each and every one of the members of BTS, they had not only tangible financial incentives, but I think more importantly, intangible creative incentives to stay. Obviously, it's very well known that each of the members have done extremely well with the stock options they have in HYBE. But I think what's really more important is that even with the so-called hiatus of the band, I think in many ways the band has actually gone on to go not just bigger, but in some ways better, because each of them have been able to pursue very successful solo endeavors, so much so that for all the records that the band set as a band, each of the members have been breaking and making records on their own right as solo artists. And so I think in many ways this hiatus was not so much a rest, but really more importantly, a recharge, a reboot, and everyone's looking forward to the relaunch. And I think it's safe to say that if we considered BTS a boy band before they went to the army, I think after they come back from the army and get back together on stage, I think it's safe to say that we could, factoring in all of their solo success, look at BTS as less of a boy band and more of as a supergroup.
All right, I see. Looking forward to it. Now, Bernie, staying on the latest news on BTS. Now, after a successful start to his solo career with 7 nabbing the top place on Billboard's Hot 100, Jungkook is expected to unveil his second solo single on Friday. How successful was Jungkook's first solo single, and what do you expect for the new song 3D?
Well, when Jungkook dropped his single, and it was an amazing collaboration with the U.S. rapper Lato, many people, and myself included, easily thought it was going to be the song of the summer. And it turns out it was. Not only did they win that award at the not only did he win that award at the MTV Video Music Awards, but he slayed by shattering a slew of records. Again, as a solo artist, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records not once but twice. One for having the most streamed track on Spotify in 1 week by a male artist. And another is that he had his music track was the fastest to ever reach 100 million streams on Spotify. Again, a first for a male artist. And even on the Billboard Global 200 chart in late July, he had the most successful debut of a solo artist on the Billboard Global 200, surpassing the record set by Miley Cyrus with Flowers. And, again, he should take some consolation on being not #1, but the second biggest overall streaming week ever, because #1 was BTS with Butter. Now, obviously, 7 set such a high mark and set such a high standard that I think many people are anxiously waiting for, what I think might be the autumn sort of audiogasm with his new track 3D. And I think it's really fun and fascinating that he is collaborating with another critically acclaimed award-winning U.S. hip-hop star, Jack Harlow. And what I find amusing about this particular collaboration, not the fact that both of these men are extremely talented artists, musical artists in their own right, but they share one thing in common, which is both these artists have lost in every single category they've been nominated at the Grammys. And so I hope with the hit, and I would like to say safely that the runaway hit of this particular collaboration will hopefully land both of these gentlemen not only a Grammy nomination, but hopefully a Grammy Award in 2024.
All right, very interesting. I can't wait to hear it. Now, Bernie, but not just Jungkook, Jennie from BLACKPINK, she will also release her solo album. And as far as I know, this is her first release ever since her solo dropped in November 2018. What are the expectations?
Well, again, when she dropped that particular solo effort, and literally, figuratively, it was called Solo, it was a huge surprise because, as again, similar to the success of BTS, Blackpink, each of those women individually found tremendous international success as solo artists. Now, part of me hopes that her next solo effort will have a little bit more of an imaginative and creative name, but whatever she's going to call it, everyone's going to love and absorb. But I think Jennie said it best. She was featured in the October issue of Harper's Bazaar, and obviously not only did she make it known that she has something coming out soon, but in her words, and I quote, "I'm making a song that's by Jennie, the most Jennie, and something unique that is only Jennie." Now, obviously, that got a lot of fans and critics excited, but for me, what I'm curious about is, now that she may, and we don't know yet for sure, if she does leave YG, I'm just curious as to who's going to be producing the new solo effort. Who is she going to be collaborating with? When and where is this going to be released by? Is it going to be by a local label or an international label? So there are a lot of question marks about this particular release, but I'm sure as soon as it drops and hits the airwaves and streams worldwide, that question mark will straighten out into an explanation point.
All right, I can't wait to hear Jennie's style solo. Now, Bernie, before I move on to other idol groups, I'd like to ask you this. While YG Entertainment is keeping mum on whether Blackpink members will renew their contracts, a report said that only Rose is going to renew with YG while the others would not. And if only a certain number of members renew their contract with YG and the others do not, how is that going to affect Blackpink's activities later on?
Obviously, this is of tremendous concern, not only for fans, but more importantly, financial analysts, because not just these reports, but let's call it for what it is right now until we know for certain rumors of who's going to sign, who's not going to sign, who's going to move on, who's going to stay. Obviously, that uncertainty is very unsettling. But what I see from all of this is that, it's obvious that the women of Blackpink, they're not breaking up. I mean, they're very much committed to the band, but we have to remember, and I think the legendary rapper said it best, Jay-Z, when he said, basically, he's quoted as saying, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." And I think in this case, all of the women have in their own right become businesses, the empires in their own right, because not only have they become very successful vis-a-vis through Blackpink, but they've become incredibly successful individual music artists, but more importantly, brand ambassadors, models, as well as even actresses, acting. And so I think the fact that each of these women have in their own right become franchises and empires in and of themselves, it doesn't surprise me that they want maybe perhaps more super serving them for their other pursuits. I think Blackpink will still very much be involved, and there's probably the likelihood that YG may end up representing the band, but as individuals, I think they may end up each going and finding separate management or arrangements. Again, there are rumors that two of the members might even have their own record labels. But I think that in some way, shape, or form, YG will still be probably part of Blackpink, but in terms of each of the members' individual pursuits, in whatever it is that's made them into global superstars, it wouldn't be surprising that they might end up finding individualized, bespoke solutions for what they want to achieve moving forward.
All right,
and again, this is not it's not an uncommon arrangement. I think when we look at comeback bands like God, who are having a tremendous run, each of the members are represented by different management companies, but they all get together as God, rep by one agency.
Right. I hope fans could be able to see the whole, membered BLACKPINK, even if the contract does not get along with YG Entertainment, with all the members. Bernie, I'd like to ask you about other idol groups as well. At the MTV Video Music Awards 2023 earlier this month, BTS's Jungkook won the Song of the Summer and BLACKPINK won Group of the Year. Stray Kids secured Best K-pop, while Tomorrowubaitogether took home the Push Performance of the Year award. It seems K-pop artists have shown for yet another year. How did you see their big wins?
Obviously winning each of those categories was incredibly important because these were not just obviously, best K-pop. That is just one of many categories. The fact that each of these artists won one of the major categories, beating out not just US but international pop stars for those accolades is really impressive. For me, seeing the success of these K-pop acts at the MTV VMAs in the US was somewhat bittersweet because while Korean artists have been peaking on the biggest main stage of the MTV Video Music Awards sort of ecosystem and universe, for me it's a little sad because this also marked the first anniversary of when MTV Asia pulled the plug and stopped airing across the region. And so, look, on one hand, Korean artists have done extremely well on MTV Asia, but now that it's gone, it's great to see, hear, and more importantly, experience K-pop on the big stage, the main stage in the U.S. on the original and still the best Video Music Awards show, hosted, produced by MTV.
All right, I see your point. Now, Bernie, we have something to expect. Now, with the return of Sunmi 17, NCT 127, and Tomorrowubaitogether on the cards, what can we expect from the K-pop scene this October?
I looked at the release schedule for October, and it seems not just every week, but almost every day there's going to be a major release. It's either going to be a boy band, it's going to be a girl band, it's going to be a solo effort from somebody from a big band, solo band, or, boy band or girl band. And so every day almost and every week it's going to be a major release. So obviously I think October is going to be very hyper competitive. If I had to predict or maybe even make a bet as to what's going to happen is I think because of the diversity and the dynamic range of the artists and the music that's coming out, we may see an interesting phenomena where in different markets, different artists are going to find different degrees of success. I don't think we're going to see, someone who's going to debut #1 in Korea also simultaneously debut #1 in Japan, North America, Latin America, etc. I think we're going to see different fans from different parts of the world showing their different affinity and affiliation for different K-pop acts really be reflected in different, but more importantly, local, regional, and global music charts. So I'm excited to see how all of these artists, many of these artists are going to perform on the charts because I think we're going to see a wide range of surprising, interesting, and fantastic results.
All right, a lot to look forward to. Now, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Bernie, for your time and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all from Within the Frame. Enjoy the extended Chuseok holiday, and we'll be back next Wednesday with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching, and good night.